Hey, boozers and shakers, we are coming at you live. We're so excited for a fall tour. It'll be the final installment of our current Here for the Booze tour.
The final, I think, 10 shows, something like that. But it's the final countdown. And we're very excited. But if you want a chance at ever seeing Here for the Booze one last time, this is it, folks, before we do our next big tour. So hopefully you can make it to the next few cities. If you want to, you can check out our tickets at andthat'swhywedrink.com/live.
We can't wait to see you there. Some shows are already sold out, so get on it quick. Bye.
Hi.
Hey.
What's going on? For the last half hour, I've been watching you just shove chips in your mouth or something. Are you doing good?
No, not really. Leona's sick, and so I'm getting sick, and so I'm in that phase where I'm like praying I don't get sick, but I feel it happening to me. But also, the poor baby got her first cold after her birthday party.
It was too good of a rager, is what I'm hearing.
I know. There were like 40 people there. It was amazing. I mean, it was very fun, but she'd never really met other kids before, and there were like other little kids, and they all get sick from daycare and stuff, so
they just touch each other.
They're just snotty, little cute snotty babies.
How was it though? I know you were really stressed leading up to it. Are you proud of how it went?
I am. Good. It was really, really fun, and like the house was all put together finally, and there was a photo booth, and everybody used a photo booth, and there was a paint your own succulents, and I
love when people actually use the photo booth.
My mom was walking around like, you need to go, like she was demanding that people go use it, so that was great. And then we had like this beautiful like 3-tier cake with like little jungle animals on it. It was just so cute. And then there was like a little time capsule for when she turns 18. Everybody wrote a little note to her, and then we did I made little spray painted like little jars with like Hershey Kisses in them as little party favors. It was just really fun and cute, and we ran out of beer, so we had to
does not surprise me.
Open other booze. It's the first time at a party that I haven't had enough alcohol. So Blaise made a special drink for the event, the signature cocktail.
What was it? Bourbon
for 21 plus. Yes, it was bourbon Aperol rosemary punch. It was delicious. I didn't actually get any, but I had taste tested it the week before.
Nice.
But we ran out of that. It was just it was a great time. It was really fun, and Leona did great. And then when everybody was singing to her, I got nervous because there were like 40 people singing and staring at her.
Babies for social anxiety.
Yeah, but she started clapping. And I was like, all right, she's fine.
She's not jaded yet. That's so sweet.
No, she's an extrovert. I'm not. I'm like, if somebody were singing at me, I'd be like, why is everyone staring at me? But she loved it. So it was great. But it was really fun. And we saw people we hadn't seen in ages. And we met people's kids that we hadn't gotten the chance to meet yet. But now Leona has a runny nose, and she doesn't know what's happening. It's so sad because she keeps waking up and just being like, why can't I fall asleep?
It's because she's getting older, girl. The second you hit one, your body just starts shutting down.
Everything starts to fall apart. But yeah,
was there a winner in terms of the birthday presents? Anything that sticks out?
Ooh, oh boy. She got a lot of fun stuff. Blaise's brother sent like a lion rocker that has her name engraved on the side. And,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, just really sweet, personal, like a lot of lion themed, a lot of animal themed stuff. Somebody gave her a book that we still can't figure out who it's from, and it's some sort of science book. Like I can't even understand it. It's called like Bayesian probability for babies or Bayesian.
It was not me. I can't.
Yeah, I know. I was like, Dad, was this you? Because he's an engineer, and he's like, no, I don't even know what that is. So I don't know who gave that to her, but she's gonna be pretty damn smart if she figures that book out.
Maybe it was her future self who time traveled and left something she's going to discover. That's how I'm going to describe it. Just for the mystery, I hope that's the right answer.
Like we never figure out who actually gave it to her.
Only she can crack the code to begin with, so you're not supposed to know. Good. I'm glad you had fun.
It was a blast, but we missed you. You were missed. Evo was missed. We I was supposed to shower today, but with the baby being sick and everything, I'm just falling behind on life and drinking a vitamin water. And
I really feel for you because is this your first time you have to experience as a mom being sick? And
yeah, I was gonna say it's my first time since pre-COVID that I've had a cold of any sort.
Shit!
I haven't been sick. I mean, knock on wood.
This is
I
gonna
haven't been
hurt,
sick
girl.
at all. Like I haven't even had allergies. Basically, I've been so careful, obviously, during COVID that I just didn't even catch like the normal cold, which honestly is the way I'd like to live my life in the future, because it's been real nice to be like 2 years in without, any sort of sniffling.
I hope your experience is better than mine, because my first cold after being quarantined really kicked my ass just because my body wasn't used to it anymore.
Yeah, I think my body's going to be like, why are you doing this to us again?
Are you... Oh, I was also going to say, I feel for you because like one of my biggest fears as a future parent is like getting a cold and like still having to take care of my children when like I'm usually out for the fucking count. So like
well, you got that man flu.
I just I have some sort of strain of that, yeah, where I'm just like, don't come near me. So like the idea of having to raise a child in the middle of that sounds just like,
oh yeah, I mean, I think that's just how it goes. If one of you gets sick, I'm assuming everyone does. I mean, I feel fine right now, but she's got a pretty gnarly runny nose. So
have you tested?
No, not yet. We do have some tests, so probably today we will. And we're supposed to go to a wedding this weekend, Blaise and I, and so obviously that is now it now hangs in the balance. And I'm like, we got to get them an extra nice wedding gift if we just bail like 2 days before.
Are either of you in the party at all?
No, thankfully.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But it's like it's in Connecticut, so we were all excited. We're gonna drive to Connecticut, stay at Blaise's family's house. You know, it would have been so. I'm saying it like it's already not happening, but maybe somehow we can avoid it. We'll see. But anyway, that's why I drink. Why do you drink this weekend?
Wow, nothing compared to you, my friend. Why do I drink? This is I'll throw a silly one in the ringer this time around. So I know this is like not your cup of tea, but Hocus Pocus came out with their sequel.
2. Yep.
And so Allison and I watched it last night, and it was fine. I think everyone kind of feels the same way about it, where like I'm very grateful that they gave us a very lovely holiday present. And I like, then that's not meant to like be like as passive aggressive as that sounds. I really am happy. Like these women, like I looked up their ages when the first movie came out. Sarah Jessica Parker was 28.
Whoa.
And Bette Midler was like 43 or something.
Wow.
So they range from their late 20s to early 40s in the first one. And in this one, they range from their late 50s to early 70s. And they did a whole movie, song and dance, all that.
Yeah.
So I am very, truly grateful that they gave their nostalgic audience a present, like a holiday gift. And it was a very delightful movie. But a lot of us wanted, I think, more nostalgia to it.
They didn't lean into that.
No, they did a good job of making nods, but like we all really, I think, and I say we as if I've spoken to the universe, but I feel like I could generally guess that people were hoping for like a cameo from one of the original kids, and it just didn't happen. And like Allison and I stayed up all night like there were so many ways they could have been inserted into the narrative, and it just didn't happen. And so we're just like, why? And so, but here's the thing. The reason why I drink is because even though the main characters did not come back in the movie, one character came back and really blew us away. And it was that creepy little book made of skin and eyeballs. And do you know what I'm talking about? Because you've seen the movie. No?
I saw it once like 5 years ago now, and I don't remember anything about it.
Okay, so I'm going to send you a picture of
great.
Of the book.
Oh, and I want to be clear, folks. I'm not like anti Hocus Pocus. I just genuinely missed
You missed the high of it.
Yeah, I missed it, and I tried to get on board, but I think I watched it too late in my life to really appreciate it to the fullest extent, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm not trying to rag on you for not liking it.
No, I just don't want everyone to be like, what is the matter with you? I really I'm not at all. But I feel like with this movie, especially, people the bar was probably so high because it was like, how do you satisfy all of the like OG fans? Like that was a really tough
It was
thing
tough.
to crack.
And they definitely made it it was definitely sweet. It was definitely like a good movie for like this generation. I appreciate how diverse they tried to keep it. Like it was they hit a lot of things on the head. It was just like, man, I really wanted, like, it could have been so easy considering this is like the 30th anniversary. All the kids are perfect ages to have teenagers. Like you could have at least made them the parents. Like, you know, it was like little things
totally
like that.
See what you're saying. Do you think they tried and they didn't want to be part of it? I doubt it, right?
I also doubt it because I know they still go to like Halloween themed conventions and
that's
stuff,
weird,
and like
then, that they wouldn't be.
The only thing is one of them, the little girl, I was like doing a full deep dive on this last night because I was like, how did they not join this movie? The little girl who was 8 in the movie, who's now like 40 and like primed to have a teenager, she was actually supposed to be in the movie somehow, but I guess like there was like a scheduling conflict. So that's her reason. The other two have not given me a reason, and for some reason I feel I'm owed it for no reason at all.
For some reason I feel I'm owed an excuse.
The fucking cat did not make a cameo. Please
send this picture. I cannot find it.
Oh, I've been ranting and raving, so I forgot to press send. Okay,
I was like opening every possible text chain with you.
Here's the book. That was from Hocus Pocus 1.
Oh, I do remember this thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God, have they like amped it up?
This book, I swear, they were like, this is the only main character we're bringing back besides the witches, so we gotta fucking deliver.
Which year did the first one come out?
93.
Okay.
So this was almost 30 years ago. So this is book from the second movie. Look at his eye, so powerful.
Oh no! Oh no!
Here's the situation, though.
His eye looks like so detailed for people who are not, Googling this alongside us.
We'll put it on our socials, but here's the situation. And like, I'm going to call this episode Justice for Book, because this episode, this entire episode is a PSA to the Hocus Pocus community.
It's the first time we've ever only had one phrase as the title, and it's Justice for Book from M. Schultz. Okay, sure. Whatever you say. I'm going to send you clips of this later, and you just tell me if I'm completely wrong in this. But so in the first movie, the book was like not even really a character. It was like a prop of the witches. In the second one, this book is like almost like has its own emotions and things like that. And the actor, that's who I care about. The actor, this eyeball right here, wasn't even listed in the credits as like an actor, but whoever acted the eyeball of Book fucking delivered. Like they said, this is going to launch my career. And they clearly, their entire body was put in like I'm guessing like a I don't think that's a real person's eye. I think that's like graphically done. I think that's probably CGI.
In that case? Okay. Well, here's the thing. If it's not a real person, which by the way, if it is, they deserve an Academy Award, because that one eyeball made me feel things I've never felt. I'm not even trying to be dramatic. Allison and I started crying only once in this movie, and it was because the book was reacting to something, and because he like looked to the left. Like this
what
book,
the fuck is going on?
The acting that went into this one eyeball was fucking crazy. And if
it doesn't look like a real, I mean, it looks like a real eye, but it looks like hyper realistic. I feel like this is probably.
If it was an editor, then that person also deserves whatever the Oscar version of an editing award is, because it was the best acting in the whole movie. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to sound dramatic here. If anyone else has watched this movie and has also been moved by Book's eyeball, please let me know. And that's why I drink this week.
Okay. Wow. Wow. We've got a whole array of feelings for everyone to relate to today.
I cried. I was like, who is doing this? I was like, I'm not even 2 eyeballs. Whoever, it was beyond. So anyway, congratulations to Book if you're out there.
I'm very impressed. I'm reading an article about it, about how poignant this book is. So you're not the only one.
I'll send you clips later. I mean, I'm going to make you watch it whether or not you want to. But this book really did say, like, this is going to launch my acting career and I'm going to take it seriously. And
maybe this book needs to just get his own IMDb page,
IMDb page?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, anyway, that's why I drank.
Okay, great. Well, do you have a story for me today?
Yes,
Did that sound natural?
It's about Book from Hocus Pocus. No.
Oh, can you imagine?
Actually, I don't know why I didn't do that.
I do, because nobody would be listening to our show anymore.
Okay, yes, I do have a story for you. This is a cryptid I've been asked about quite a lot. And this is a Selkie. Have you heard of Selkies?
It's familiar. Selkie.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is, though.
I didn't know what it was either, and now I feel kind of silly because I feel like it was right in the name the whole time, but maybe not. I don't know. I think it
Alka-Seltzer?
Okay, you made me feel better, actually.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so don't worry.
So Selkies, or sometimes they're also called silkies, they're apparently seal folk. Seal people.
Oh, like a bark, flap, flap. Okay, gotcha.
Nailed it. So they're a race of seal people who can shed their skin and turn into humans.
Whoa.
Shape-shifting seals.
Okay, I did not know anything about this.
Oh, okay, good. So the main lore, start counting Blaise as I say the word lore. It's from Iceland and the Faroe Islands, but it's also often in Ireland, through northern Scotland, all the way down to southern England. It's all over. And there's one woman named, or actually, I don't know if it's a woman. It's a gender neutral name, so I don't know why I assumed that. Ooh, I'll unpack that later, folks. There's someone named Morgan, who is an author, who said that Selkie comes from the Scottish word selch or selk, which comes from the Old English seoch, which means seal. So that's where we get the name. And then there's another person named Duncan, who is a storyteller and a traveler. And I make sure to note those because that in the area there actually is a specific marginalized group of like nomadic people in England who are known for their storytelling. So
in England, you said?
And yeah.
Okay.
And so just a shout out for their storytelling tradition. But Duncan says that they were called silkies for their soft fur. Makes sense because they do look very silky. His own grandmother actually had a piece of seal skin that she used in her life to predict the weather, because it was said that if the seal fur would stand up on its end, it was warning you of a bad storm coming in. Whoa. But if the fur laid soft, then it meant that there was calm weather coming.
Interesting.
Would love a piece of fortune-telling weather, some sort of device. Maybe I don't need it to be skin.
I was going to say, let's just specify right now, we don't need it to be skin. So, if you have
cool
access to that, folks, make sure, please, that it didn't come from a living creature.
You know my favorite fortune-telling slab of anything ever was? You know those little see-through red fish on
those.
The palm of your hand?
Love those.
It changed me. I remember one time it curled up and it meant like someone was in love with me, and I was like, I'm
That's
7.
That's what it meant.
But
I know. And I was like,
I believe you.
Wow. And you're right.
It's like, I got it. My task today is to find this person who's in love with me. So as for where people can find Selkies, you can probably assume, since they are ocean bound, on a lot of shorelines, people report seeing fishermen on small boats. And this is kind of what I imagine this is where the origin of Selkies came from, where people would see fishermen on small boats, but the boats were impressively fast because they were made with seal skin stretched over them. And so they could go through the water faster.
I see. No. I'm sorry. That was a very M joke. No offense.
This is why I laughed, my friends. And also the fishermen were usually like experts. They knew what they were doing better than anybody else. And so a combination of these really wonderful and efficient fishermen who were going on these boats that were much faster than any other boat. It just seemed like otherworldly.
I see. Okay.
And it just looked like big-ass seals swimming through the water. So it's very, I imagine, easy to have combined the story of these fishermen that used sealskin on their boats, combined it with Selkies, and then that's kind of where the story comes from.
Right.
There's also, I guess, Selkies have fallen into the Christian world in some ways, or at least Christian beliefs have been put on where Selkies come from, because there are versions that Selkies are actually angels who have fallen into the ocean, or that their souls have reincarnated into seals. And I don't hate the idea of souls reincarnating into seals, because the idea is that, oh, now you're part of both worlds. You can.
Doesn't sound very Christian.
Doesn't sound very Christian, but you know what? I maybe is a little more enticing to me than about, oh, I guess I could just be part of both worlds, like Hannah Montana, but as a seal, and get a little bit of everything.
You get it.
And the biggest lore of the Selkies is that basically they look like seals, but they are shape-shifting fairies who can travel between worlds.
Oh,
now that I'm into too. People who encounter a Selkie have said that the sound of the ocean is heard in their voice. You can hear the tides, which I imagine is just so calming.
That's beautiful.
Like I always make my Alexa play like ocean sounds when I'm going to bed. I'm like, I wish I just had a Selkie to talk to. They should really get a Selkie to voice an episode of Sleepy, and they read you a story and you just kind of hear the tides in the back, you know?
What's an episode of Sleepy?
Okay, not an ad, but Sleepy's it's a podcast where they read sleepy stories to you to help you fall asleep.
Oh, there's so many of those. I don't know that one, but the Calm app, who is one of our sponsors, also does that. For folks who are looking to support the show here.
Allison, there's one guy who voices a Sleepy episode that she's like obsessed with his voice for some, and I always mess up his name. I think it's like Otis Spunkmeyer, which is like a cookie or something.
Wait a second.
Otis something, but
I'm
she's
obsessed with him too, by the way.
He's actually a talking cookie. But no, there's like, he tells one story, and anyway, there you have it. There you have it. We should have a Selkie on either that one episode with Otis Spunkmeyer or on Calm. But so people can hear the ocean in their voice. Also, people have described Selkies as having oddly expressive eyes when they're in seal form, almost as if they're seals, but they're observing as if they're human.
I see.
So when they shift...
I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. I'm sorry.
I'm going to keep laughing every time you say it, to be clear. When they shift into their human form, they still keep their expressive eyes, but they're usually very big, very dark. And weirdly, when they turn into their human form, they also have unusually well-kept hair, where like even the middle part is like perfectly clean. And I wonder if that's because seals are so slick, you know? Like I wonder if there's something about that.
That's interesting.
Selkie women are reported, this is kind of so fucked up. Selkie women are reported to be plain looking. That's like their claim to fame.
They've just got like a perfect part in their hair, but they're really otherwise very boring. That's really nice.
The middle part is their entire personality.
I guess so.
But interesting, they may be plain looking in front of you, but once they leave, you remember them as very, very beautiful.
That's so weird.
What a fun skill. I would love that.
I do too, man.
Selkie men, on the other hand, they are known, this is some sort of patriarchy. Selkie men are known to be oddly handsome and can seduce women, especially those in lonely marriages.
Oh, but then when they leave, you're like, that guy was pretty ugly. It's like the opposite. You're like, it just doesn't work.
I hope that's the case, because that would be a perfect balance. So there's one theory that when Selkies want to come out on shore and hang out on the beach, they can take their seal skin off and they'll like dance and feel free on the beach at night when nobody else is around. So it's usually under a full moon that they're all dancing together by the water.
Lovely.
The other part of that theory, though, or I guess a different version of that theory, is that sometimes, how do I say it? There are versions of that story where people say, oh, well, they actually can't come out whenever they want. They can only come out on certain days of the year. So that's why they're dancing, because it's like a celebratory thing that they can be on shore. Okay. And then they have to wait a certain amount of time before they can come out again. And Selkies, for the most part, but just before I get into like the stories, they're usually considered very, very lovely and very kind. And they're actually usually the victim of stories. They're never like attacking people. It's more like people are, you know, being harmful to them. Okay. Especially Selkie women. So In a lot of stories, Selkie women are said to be coerced or taken by human men against their will to become their lovers.
Oh, no. Oh,
yep,
no.
It had to go there. Had to go there. One story that's pretty common is that there was a fisherman one night who was looking down at the shore and he saw shadows moving around. So he went to go look, and that's where he found a group of Selkie women dancing together. And he tried to approach them, but they heard him coming, and I guess they just thought like, man, and just ran for it.
Mm-hmm.
And they took off. They all grabbed their seal skins, put them back on, and jumped into the water as they shifted back into seals. But one of them couldn't find her seal skin.
No!
And was just running around the beach looking for her seal skin so she could get back in the water. And the fisherman saw that he was standing on it, so he picked it up and he just started walking home with it. And the Selkie woman started crying and asking for it back, saying, like, I can't go back in the water without my seal skin. I can't turn back into a seal without it. And he just ignored her and kept walking. And so she had to follow him all the way home so that she could get her seal skin. But when they got to his house, he hid the skin.
What a jackass.
Since she couldn't get in the sea without it, she was forced to stay with him until further notice. Fast forward years later, she's now living with him, and just to keep it really surface level, she somehow has now bore many of his children. And the story tries to make it sound like, I'm sure especially in the past, like when our grandparents told the story, it was probably like, oh, when, they lived happily ever after because a human man and a Selkie found their way to love. And they're a wonderful little happy family. But like, let's not forget that he straight up kidnapped her. Or held her against her will. And also the story says that she would like walk out to the sea each day and like call out to her Selkie family.
Horrible.
So the story ends where the kids end up finding her seal skin in the house, and they're like, Mom, what's this? And she has to like sadly bid farewell and say goodbye to them, and she like grabs it from them, puts it on, and dives into the sea and never comes back.
Great. So just all around tragedy.
All around tragedy. There are like different versions of the story where like she visits the kids on the beach every now and then, or she teaches them the ways of the Selkies. Meanwhile, there are stories of human women with male Selkies also. There's one story of a woman named Ursula who was from a noble family, and she had all these plans from her family to like marry into royalty.
She had this like niece who had red hair and had a big fishtail.
Her brother was the king of the sea.
So weird how that happened.
That she becomes an octopus is how this works. Well, I guess that's not too far if she's already becoming a seal or something.
I'm saying.
So Ursula is from a noble family. Her family had big plans for her to marry rich, but she goes against her dad's wishes and marries a farmer. But unfortunately, that marriage was now failing, and so she's depressed and she doesn't know what to do. So she likes to walk out to the ocean and just look at the sea and cry about her life. And apparently she cried exactly 7 tears into the water, and I guess unlocked a portal or something, because then a Selkie in seal form appears and says, "What's your will with me, fair lady?" And after venting about her personal life, the Selkie says, okay, I'm going to come back later when I can turn into human form. And when he comes back, Ursula either falls for him or begins an affair with him or something, and they have their own kids. Ursula changes her name to protect her family. So now, conveniently, there's no evidence of this story being a true story.
Sure.
Not that I totally need it, but, and so anyway, they end up having their own kids. And this begs the question, so what happens if you're half human and half Selkie?
Yeah.
Apparently that means you're half Selkie, which then means you are half fairy. So isn't that fun?
That's pretty cool.
Some stories say that you're able to follow your mom into the ocean maybe at a certain age. Makes me think of the 13th year, the decom, where he's a mermaid, and on his 13th year he becomes a mermaid.
What
Do you
are you
remember
talking about?
The Disney Channel original movie, The 13th Year, where he becomes a mermaid at 13 years old.
Oh, I forget.
I'm throwing a lot of old Disney references at you, and it's not landing. Interesting.
Listen, I did fucking Little Mermaid, okay? So just let me have it.
Okay. Well, I got no references for that yet. We already did the Ursula thing. So.
No, I'm saying I already referenced it. So that's enough Disney today. Thank you.
You're fair. It's fair. So some people say that they follow their moms into the ocean. Some people say that they're born looking like they're half Selkie, so they'll have certain Selkie features. In Ursula's story, where the seal turned into a human and then they had their own children, her kids apparently were born with webbed hands and feet. So like almost as if they were like seal paws or something like that. And to hide their Selkie genes, I assume this means to hide that Ursula was having an affair on her husband with the Selkie. Ursula's midwife used garden shears to cut the webbings to unweb their hands and feet.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And they lived happily ever after.
The end.
So these Selkies will, sometimes they'll say the Selkies will live with their children or partners. They might be able to bring them into the ocean. That's rarely the case where they can bring their loved ones to the sea with them.
Okay.
There are versions of the lore that say that because humans can't join them, since they can't shapeshift into seals with them, that if you're able to be a Selkie, you have to eventually choose your family or the sea.
That's dark.
Yeah. And then there are those stories where it's like, oh, well, they'll come back to visit. But it's mainly like, oh, if you want to go live at the sea, your loved one can't come with you.
I see. I'm so sorry.
And one story says that there was actually a boy who loved the seals and grew up with them and would even like swim in the ocean with them and just loved the seals so much that he was actually able to become a Selkie, even though he wasn't part Selkie at all, because he traded his human toe for a seal skin.
His human toe?
Yes.
He cut his toe off?
I guess so. I don't know how it was removed from him, but I imagine painfully.
Same fucking garden shears or whatever.
Yeah. And so anyway, he trades his toe for a seal skin and he's able to become a Selkie and then live in the ocean as he's always wanted. But he still comes back to visit his sister, who obviously lives on shore.
That's so sad. Okay. I mean, hope it was worth it, I guess.
I guess so. So with so much talk of Selkies, many in the area are extra careful to be kind to the seals whenever they...
Well, that's a good outcome of this story that I wasn't expecting. At least there's something.
Super solid PSA of be nice to...
Just in case.
Just in case. When seals in the area gather on shore, people will say, oh, they're warning us of bad weather. Those are the Selkies warning us of bad weather.
Oh, interesting.
But also, to be fair, seals actually do gather on shore before and after storms. So
I was about to ask about that. I was like, I bet. But that's kind of cool, though, that became part of the lore a little bit. Here's number 2 for you, Blaise, part of the lore. That like, oh, they actually were able to track like animal patterns and habits and like use that as part of the story. That's kind of cool.
Using science for their fiction. Oh, interesting. No, it is very lovely that they have this message of like, be nice to the seals, and then they're nice to us, and they warn us of weather and all this stuff. And also to remind locals to be kind to the seals, there are cautionary tales warning against messing with these seals so that you don't piss off the seal folk. Right. So there's one story that has been named The Silky's Revenge. Uh-oh. And here's the story. This is the cautionary tale of why you should be nice to seals.
Okay.
So a minister lived with his wife and his daughter. The daughter's name was Morag, M-O-R-A-G. And the minister loved fishing, but he hated the local seals because they would chew holes in his fishing nets. And
to get the fish, probably.
Yeah. And so one day when he was fishing, he pulled up his net and found a baby seal inside.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And he basically screamed at the baby seal and said, one day you're going to grow up and eat my fish, and was pissed about it. And so he ended up unaliving the baby seal. important to the story, so I'll say it, but hit him in the head with a rock. Okay.
Oh, no.
So when he got home, he told his wife about this, and apparently the wife's name was Christine Schieffer, and cussed him out and said, how fucking dare you?
How dare you? Divorce.
Yeah. Tomato. Okay, so he basically was not doing hot after that. His relationship tanked, and then weirdly, almost as if karmically, his wife got mysteriously sick and died. And the minister put out an ad for a housekeeper or a babysitter to help him watch his kid. And one night, a woman named Selena comes to the house for the job. Just knocks on the door, a la Fran Fine, the nanny. Just shows up at the front stoop and is all of a sudden given a job. And Selena is now taking care of Morag and became very close very quickly with her, and they would spend their days at the beach together. They would talk to each other. They got very, very close very, very quickly, almost unnervingly close. And the whole time, I guess the minister, the father, is starting to notice how attached his daughter is becoming to Selena. And so he's like, okay, maybe I need to see their dynamic on my own. So I'm going to take them out fishing with me next time I leave. Mm-hmm. So he took them fishing and realized that the two of them were not interested in talking to him. They were sitting off in the corner. They were whispering to each other. They were being very affectionate, and he was, I guess, jealous of it. So he screams at them and says, you're trying to steal my daughter from me. This is, you're getting weirdly close. This is my kid, not yours. And so he says, you're trying to take my daughter. And Selena says, you did the same thing to me because you took my baby, and hit his head against a stone.
Oh, no.
And then Selena grabs the daughter, jumps into the sea, and the two of them were never seen again.
Did she kill the daughter?
I don't know if that means death or that maybe she turned into a seal. I don't know.
She took her maybe as her own child now or something.
Yeah.
Let's at least hope for that outcome.
Yeah. So an eye for an eye with a Selkie.
Yikes.
Another story is that there was a fish shortage in the area. So a bunch of fishermen went out one day and they found 8 seals in the area that they thought, all the seals are eating the fish. So they killed all these seals, all 8 of them.
Excellent.
Or they killed 7 of them, but one of them got away with a spear in its side. Later that same day, there was a really intense storm, and they got caught out in the ocean in this storm. And the fishermen all row to an island for safety, where they find this old man in a cabin who lets them stay inside while the storm goes down. And inside, he saw that the man's son was moaning in pain on the ground because a spear was in his side. And the man said his 8 sons had all gone out earlier, and they were all killed but this one. And he says the only way that his son would survive is if the spear was pulled out of him by the person who stabbed him.
Oh, no.
So I guess good timing and being in the right place, but also you're the one that caused this. And also now you have to look this man in the eye and say, it was me who stabbed your son.
Oops.
Whoops. But it was a message to don't fuck with Selkies. You might still awkwardly run into them afterwards and have to own up to what you're doing and killing them. So the fisherman pulls the spear out of the Selkie, and somehow the father just lets this man leave, even though all 7 of his other sons are dead because of him. And the fisherman swears that he will never hurt seals again because of the experience he had.
Wow.
I feel like that's the least realistic of all of them, just based on emotions, because I feel like if all my children were dead because of the person standing in my house,
right,
that guy would not live to tell the tale.
Fair point.
But anyway, the legend goes on that fisherman and his group swore that they would never harm another seal, and from that point on, the area that they lived in always had lots of seals, and thus, by the way, lots of fish.
Yeah, I was gonna say that can't be bad for, right?
No, you're totally right, because I guess this is still an extremely sensitive subject in certain fishing circles, who think that seals are eating all the fish, but just a PSA that seals are apex predators and food webs depend on them for balance.
Right.
So if you wipe out seals, you're wiping out massive parts of the ecosystem. And so seals are actually good for fish, or I guess it all works out in the
they're
butterfly
bad for
effect.
fish, but they're probably good for fisher people.
Yeah. So just don't get rid of seals and think that'll cure your fish problem. And then there was another story that a man killed seals to sell them to people.
Great.
And then he comes across an enormous talking seal that threatened to drown him if he didn't stop.
That was a dream he had, though.
That
sounds
feels
like a bad dream he had.
That feels a little more like somehow more unrealistic.
His subconscious came like roaring into his nighttime routine. Like, it's me, all the seals you've killed.
So this godlike figure seal was maybe his subconscious. It was like, just stop doing it. So he did.
Okay.
But anyway, those are just some of the sample stories. For the most part, the bottom line is that Selkies are generally gentle folk, and they've been said to save people from drowning. They predict good weather or bad weather for you. They seem to just not want to be harmed, and that's about it on that. So I guess this is not just an episode about justice for Book and whoever acted in his role.
Oh boy, we're back to that again.
But it's also a PSA to be nice to all wildlife, especially seals. So that's the story of the Selkies.
I can get behind that PSA.
Yay! Okay, well, there you have it.
Good job, Em.
Thank you. I was trying to... here it is. Here it is. My brain was trying to find one. Here we go. Do you give it the seal of approval?
Find one. Wait. Oh, your brain was trying to find one. You weren't like Googling it.
No. My brain.
Yes.
I did manual Google. I just thought really hard.
That was very good. I thought you Googled seal puns, and I was like, oh, come on.
Nope. That one
came up with that. That was pretty damn good.
Came from the old noggin.
Old noggin. Yep. I'm barking my seal of approval. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have for you today an abduction case. So speaking of abductions.
Does it happen to be a seal being abducted by a fisherman?
Wish, but no. Unfortunately, it is a child. So
oh, shit. Wow.
Here we go.
Sometimes I think, wow, we really named the show so perfectly. Because, in my head, I just went, oh, and that's why we drank. And then I went, oh my God, that's the name of the show.
Wait a second, that sounds so familiar.
I was like, I know that from somewhere.
Yeah, it is easy to describe to people when I tell them the name, and then I just say, it's all the reasons we drink. I don't know what else to tell you. People usually get it pretty quickly. They're like, aha, I see.
Very on the nose. Yeah. Okay, well, by all means, please bum me out for the rest of the day, starting now.
This is where the tires screech and we do like a quick 180 where we're talking about like fun seal folklore. And now I'm like, anyway, there was this child, 13-year-old William Ownby, who went by Ben, who lived with his parents, Don and Doris Ownby, in Beaufort, Missouri. Now, I'm not sure if it's Beaufort or Beaufort. So
Beaufort sounds right.
Beaufort sounds right. So let's
Beaufort
go with
is
that.
Usually Buford.
Cool. This is Beaufort then. Beau.
Okay, sorry.
You just never know with these towns and these Midwest. They always there's a town in Kentucky called Versailles, but it's spelled like Versailles. You know what I mean?
They have videos. Some I don't know what network it is, but there's a YouTube channel where it will just give you cities. Names of cities, and you have to guess how it's pronounced, and it's always not what you're expecting.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So,
unless you probably live there, and then you're like, I know this one, finally.
Right. Yeah.
So either Beaufort or Beaufort, Ben was a responsible, again, he's 13 years old. He's a responsible, prudent child, straight A student, a big reader, and a classic child of the early internet. So every day after school, he would return home right away, sign into his desktop computer by 4 p.m., and then spend the day. I am going to go make this a little revisionist history and say he was playing Neopets. I don't know what he was doing.
Club Penguin. It was Club Penguin.
Okay, I'm going with Neopets. I was a Neopets kid.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Neopets. You go with Club Penguin. You know what, folks? We can all just guess whatever your heart desires.
Yeah.
So he wanted to go into computer science in college and become a computer programmer. So he really loved being on the computer. And he was also a kid who had a pretty standard daily schedule. He didn't really do things unexpectedly every day. His school bus would drop him off at the same stop at about 3:30 p.m. and he would walk a short distance home and would usually get home by 3:45 or 4 at the latest. And his dad, Don, was always home waiting for him. And this is where I also get a little bit like skeeved out. Is that even the right way to say it? Skeeved out?
Skeeved.
Because it's probably maybe not even the right phrasing, but like I used to walk home from the bus and it wasn't very far, but it was like the same time every day. And my parents were home. They were just up the street, but it's like just that one little.
Well, we had I don't know I was too young to be following the details. I was like 7 years old. But when we first moved to Fredericksburg, there was a huge abduction case of like two girls our age who were just walking home from school.
Oh, forget it.
And it took over the city. My mom still talks about it. And she's like, oh, well, I was always worried about you walking home because of those two girls.
Did they solve it?
I don't think they did.
Oh, no.
But
that's terrible. I mean, and we'd walk just a few minutes, like literally down the street, but it's still like.
It's just one of those things where like, and even if any sudden trauma, it's like, oh, it like, who'd have thunk 5 minutes ago that this was going to happen to me?
Yeah, and that could happen with anything. So I'm not trying to say like, I mean.
No, it's just like a universal, like, I can't believe, like who would have thought, like, it was going to be me in 5 seconds.
Brief thing that we do every single day. Yeah. So anyway, it just makes me think. But January 8th, 2007, Ben did not come home by 4 o'clock as usual. And his dad, Don, was home waiting for him. And by 4:10, this is how like routine this kid was. By 4:10, he knew something was wrong because the latest that Ben would ever get home was 4. So by 4:10, he's like, something's not right. So Don contacted his wife, Doris, and they called family, neighbors, and Ben's friends, trying to figure out who knew where he was. They couldn't really picture him leaving school with his friends and not telling them. It just was unlike him. He didn't have any problems at home or school. He had never run away before. It was just completely out of character for him to deviate from his daily habits and not tell his parents. Mm-hmm. So when they confirmed that no one in Ben's life knew where he was, they called the police. And the police jumped on this pretty quickly and issued an endangered persons alert, which is a level below the Amber Alert, because at this point they weren't 100% sure, what had happened, if he had been abducted or not. So they figured he might just be around with friends, but they did issue like an endangered persons alert for him.
Okay.
So the police then brought search dogs to the neighborhood, and Ben's parents organized a small search party to scour the area for Ben. But once police got to questioning neighbors, things started to look bad. They're hoping that he would just turn up somewhere, but unfortunately, when they talked to his friend Mitchell, who was a 15-year-old boy, they asked Mitchell, who rode the bus with him, by the way, have you seen Ben? And at first, Mitchell lied and said he got off the bus and went to a friend's house. But pretty quickly, poor Mitchell realizes like, oh, this is not the time to be lying to save my own, butt here. So he says, okay. I actually parked my car at a hill near the bus stop and I drive home after getting dropped off. And the reason he lied is because he was 15 and he wasn't old enough to drive yet. But so he would put his car there and hide it and like get off the bus and drive home, which is like such a Christine move, and I feel like an M move of like, I don't want to walk like 10 minutes home.
Like doing the most for like such minimal reward.
For minimal effort. Yes, exactly. Like I refuse to walk home, so I'm going to break the law and drive there with my secret car that I hid in the bushes. So he finally admits like, okay, I lied. I had my car there and I did get off the bus and I did see Ben. And so he, thank God, was able to admit this, and thank God for Mitchell breaking the law for his own convenience, because when he got into his car on top of the hill, apparently he saw a vehicle back into a ditch, turn, and then speed past him toward a gravel road. Oh. And almost subconsciously, he remembered that Ben was no longer in sight. It was sort of like he was telling this to the police, and he's like, well, come to think of it, Ben wasn't there anymore. Like Ben wasn't walking like he usually would be. So
okay.
Basically the point is this car had presumably taken Ben and driven off.
Sure.
Luckily, Mitchell, the hero of the day, was really into trucks, and he had noticed a lot of crucial details about the vehicle he had seen in front of him that was speeding away.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he said the car was an old, beat-up, white Nissan pickup truck with no hubcaps. He said the back left fender was rusty, and there were dents all over the truck, most notably on the rear passenger side.
Okay.
But the description was so detailed that police were skeptical because they were like, why would a 15-year-old boy recognize all this?
It's like, I'm literally breaking the law so I can drive my car for 10 minutes, like every day. Clearly, I like cars. Leave me alone.
That's a great point. Like, we've established how I feel about cars, and it's very good.
And also, like, I was about to say, like, wow, if God forbid, but if something were to happen to me or someone I love, I would hope that, like, a car expert is the one who clocks the car.
Yes.
But then, of course, now the fucking police are like, oh, well, that's too good of a job.
Too convenient that you notice this.
Yeah.
So it's so detailed. The police are a little bit skeptical, but then they talk to more neighbors who are like, oh, wait, no, I saw that exact same truck with no hubcaps. And so they realized, you know what, Mitchell's probably telling the truth and has seen this car.
Oh,
so
poor Mitchell.
I know.
Through it.
Honestly, Mitchell, and it's not over because Mitchell goes through it a little more too. And I will say he was interviewed in the 2020 episode I watched about this. And it's just like, he's like, well, I like this. I saw this truck. Like, he just is like poor teenage boy who's just like trying to do his best and everyone's like ragging on him.
Jeez.
He's like, I really like cars. It's just very sweet. Anyway. So within 24 hours of Ben's disappearance, police now were pretty convinced this is an abduction case. So they issue an official Amber Alert, which at this time was actually relatively new. The Amber Alerts were like pretty new on the scene. The system had been in the works technically since 1996, but the Federal Communications Commission had officially endorsed its use in 2002, and then Missouri didn't even adopt the system until 2003. So that was 4 years before this abduction. So it's a relatively new concept at this point. And the Amber Alert that they issued said the following. Ben is 4 feet 10 inches tall and weighs around 100 pounds. He was last seen wearing a red St. Louis Rams sweatshirt with a hood, blue jeans, and carrying his black backpack. Ben has brown hair, blue eyes, and wears glasses. William Ben Ownby is 13 years old and Caucasian. Police ask if anyone finds a black backpack anywhere on the side of the road, please call them or the FBI immediately. Can you imagine? I mean, This is just off. No, well, first of all, no. But can you imagine you're like walking on the street and you're like, oh, someone dropped their backpack, and you go home and then you see this Amber Alert and you're like, oh, wait, now I have to call the FBI. You know?
Oh my God.
Very, very scary. So the FBI did join the Franklin County Sheriff's Department on this investigation, and the State Highway Patrol basically kicked it into gear. They set up roadblocks, they searched vehicles, they tried to catch anybody who might be leaving the area who might have been in their custody. So dozens of volunteers organized to search as well, and the FBI held a press conference to address the media and alert people to look out for signs of Ben. And on top of that, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children also got involved, but things were looking bleak because no matter how many cars they searched, no matter how many people they stopped, they were not able to find any signs of Ben. Investigators became concerned that Ben's abduction might be linked to another abduction that had happened about 4.5 years previously.
Oh, okay.
I know. And there were enough red flags here to kind of make them wary that this could be related. So back in 2002, which had, again, 4.5 years earlier, 11-year-old Shawn Hornbeck had been abducted while riding his bike on a back road.
Okay.
Police noted that both boys were about the same height and weight. Both had brown hair. They were similar in age. They looked young, like they looked like little boys. And they were both wearing jeans and sporty T-shirts when they were kidnapped. And like I said, they were also very close by, geographically speaking. And so this immediately set up like red flags, and the police realized this seems way too similar for comfort. And that was not good news because at this point, Shawn had been missing over 4 years later and had been presumed dead.
Yeah,
so,
had never come back.
So, the thought is, well,
this guy's not coming back.
This can't be good. Yeah, if this is the same perpetrator, then it's probably not a good sign because at this point Shawn was presumed dead. So after a few days with no new leads and no sign of this truck Mitchell had seen, people's hopes started to falter. The police, basically all they could do was keep an eye out for the truck and hope for the best. But Shawn's parents, so Shawn was the one who had gone missing in 2002 at age 11. And Shawn's parents actually held a vigil for Shawn every year to try to keep the case, somewhat alive and in the minds of people who lived locally. They refused to let his story fade in case they got a hold of any new information to solve the case. And they had founded something called the Shawn Hornbeck Foundation in his name to help other families find their own abducted children.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So Shawn's parents were essentially the only ones left who still had hope that they might find him someday.
Or they might also have leads because I'm sure they studied everything they could in the last 4 years, right?
Yeah. So, wait, what do you mean? Leads for which? For what?
I mean, just to give advice to this new family who's lost their son.
They might at least have...
they might remember something that no one else is remembering.
Right. Perhaps, especially if the two cases are related. So at this point, things did not look good for Shawn and for Ben, especially if this was the same perpetrator. Meanwhile, this is where Mitchell gets kind of thrown under the bus. Some people start suggesting perhaps Mitchell had something to do with it.
Oh.
He was facing some really, really ugly accusations. But again, like I kind of said already, he genuinely had nothing to do with this. He just was trying to be helpful. So this is not me giving everyone the runaround. He genuinely just liked trucks. So that was his only, he was just trying to help.
What a shame that all he had was an interest. And
I know. He's
was
wrong
just
place,
the fatal
wrong
flaw.
time. Yep.
Fatal flaw.
So investigators backed up Mitchell's innocence. They even had him do a polygraph test, which he passed with flying colors just so they could release to the public, like, hey, this kid passed a polygraph with flying colors. It's not him. Like, they were just trying to
protect
him from the public. So on January 11th, Ben had now been missing for 3 days. And, that show, 48 Hours, as most people know, or at least probably most people listening to this show know, if you don't find, the child within 48 hours, it's often a bad sign because many successful recovery cases of missing children happen within those 48 hours. And after this point, hope kind of tanks. Like your chance of a good outcome essentially kind of tanks at this point. Meanwhile, police in Kirkwood, Missouri, which was less than 50 miles away from Beaufort/Beaufort, were at an apartment complex serving an arrest warrant to a resident in an unrelated case. And while they were in the complex parking lot, they noticed this old, beat-up white Nissan pickup truck with no hubcaps. At this point, thankfully, every officer in the area and many civilians as well were on the lookout for this exact truck because they had to release this information to the public. And so as police are observing the truck, other residents kind of come up to the police and say, hey, we've actually noticed this truck too, and we've considered calling it in, but they hesitated because, as you can imagine, you see your neighbor's truck and you're like, if I call the police, am I just going to make an enemy out of my neighbor for no reason? Like maybe it's not them. Maybe I'm seeing things. I'm second guessing myself. Especially when it's call the FBI if you notice anything. It's that's a big ask. And so, just another PSA here. If you see something, say something. Yep. Worst that happens is your neighbor's like, what the hell? You thought I kidnapped someone? But you know what?
It'll be awkward, but whatever.
Yeah, it'll be awkward. Exactly. That's the worst. So police are looking at this truck, and a couple residents come over and they're like, hey, we've actually noticed this too, and we wanted to let you know, we've thought about calling this in, but we've hesitated for whatever reason. A resident then tells police, hey, I know who that truck belongs to. It belongs to my neighbor, Michael Devlin, who lived in a first-floor apartment nearby with his teenage son. So 41-year-old Michael Devlin was sort of a recluse, but neighbors were pretty comfortably familiar with him. He lived there, like I said, alone with his son. They were known to, like, I don't know, be pretty keep to themselves, but sometimes they would like pitch a tent and have a little camp out behind the building for fun.
Okay.
His son had actually recently had a bicycle stolen and had wanted to report it to police, and so went and reported it missing. Unfortunately, police, when they were reporting this bike missing, didn't realize that the teenage son of Michael that they were talking to was actually the teenage Shawn Hornbeck, who had gone missing 4.5 years earlier.
Well, that's a very
plot
convenient thing to stumble across.
Plot twist. Well, they didn't know. They didn't. Yeah. They had no idea.
I know, but like, what are the odds?
Of what?
Like, they had no idea, but it's just, I mean, I think I need to hear more about this plot twist before I decide how psyched I am about this. Hang on.
I see. Well, I'm just saying that, sorry, I think I maybe phrased that wrong. The neighbor had gone into police to report a bicycle missing in the past, and had introduced himself as Shawn Devlin, as Michael Devlin's son.
Okay,
but
got it.
At the time, police had no idea that this kid was actually not Shawn Devlin, it was Shawn Hornbeck. And so now we're fast forwarding. Police were like, oh yeah, we've spoken to that kid before. They didn't even realize that was who that kid was. Because Michael Devlin had been playing this off like, oh, this is my son, Shawn.
So
totally
wild.
Different person. So Michael, he worked at a nearby pizza shop as well as a funeral home. And police knew Michael because the pizza place was just around the corner from the police station, and Michael was on friendly terms with the police officers. They would sometimes hang out, and he would talk and joke with them in public and serve them pizza. But at home, he rarely interacted with his neighbors. He'd called the police once on someone to settle a parking dispute, but that's about it. He really didn't have any history with the cops, any sort of criminal background. But the police officers at this point, they call in the truck, and it matched the description Mitchell had given, dent for dent, so to speak. Like everything Mitchell had described was exactly spot on to this truck. So they tried to question Michael outside of his apartment, but he refused to talk and just went inside and said, like, leave me alone. The next day, two FBI agents went to the pizzeria on this same lead, and one said, Michael glanced up once, and then he didn't look at all. That's my first clue. My spidey senses were up almost immediately.
Ooh, okay.
And she was interviewed in this 2020 special too and was like, I can tell when someone's lying. And she said he just wouldn't look her in the eye. And she's like, something was up with this dude.
Problematic.
And so they asked Michael if they could search his truck, and he agreed. And while one officer searched the truck, it started to rain. So the same woman, she offered Michael to sit inside her car, inside an unmarked vehicle for coverage from the rain, and he agreed, and they just started chatting. And she said she just kind of roundabout was talking and trying to get any information out of him, but as casually as possible so as not to make it sound like an interrogation. And all of a sudden, he said, I'm a bad person.
Ooh. That'll do it.
And during this freaking conversation in the rain, he ended up confessing to Ben's abduction, the most recent abduction. And he told investigators that even in that moment, Ben was inside his apartment, alive and well.
Interesting. Did he, maybe you already said this, but did he sense that she was onto him and that's why he admitted it? Or was he just like eager to share that he was a bad person?
Because he knew why they were searching the car.
Gotcha.
Like he knew that he was under suspicion for this, for the abduction of Ben. So I think
the guilt was eating at him.
Yeah, or he didn't know how to talk his way out of it. Something like that. Yeah, probably the guilt, considering he said, I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
And then, incredibly, Michael said, oh, but it's not just Ben. I also abducted another boy 4 years ago.
Oh, shit.
Shawn Hornbeck. And so now police were like, okay, we're right. That these two are connected. These cases are connected. But to everyone's shock, this guy is saying they're still alive and they're in my apartment. So in no time, investigators obtained warrants and entered Michael's apartment. The conditions were very horrendous. There was trash and cat feces all over the floor.
Oh, God.
The place smelled of rot, waste, and garbage. And right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of all of this mess, Ben and Shawn are playing video games on the couch.
Wow, we never get a story where it ends like this.
I know.
Oh my God. I was not expecting that to be how this goes. Okay.
Thank the Lord. So the first thing Ben says is, "Are you going to take me home?" And just so sad. Both boys were immediately taken to the hospital where they were declared perfectly healthy. Thank God. Police contacted Shawn's parents who were driving in the rain and they pulled over. I mean, it's all the same rain. I'm just thinking like it was the same rain where he had to sit inside the car and then he spilled his guts about the abduction and now Shawn's parents are driving in this same storm and get the call. It's just very poignant. But so their kid has been missing 4.5 years and everybody's told them he's presumed dead. And now they get this call and they're like, we found Shawn. I mean,
but he's just playing video games and he's
playing
A-okay.
video games right now. He's A-okay, at least physically speaking.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. What was the story that he was told about why he was there for 4 years?
Oh, you'll see. You'll see.
Okay.
Shawn's mother, when she got this call about Shawn, said, "I feel like I'm in a dream, only this time it's a good dream. It's not my nightmare that I've lived for 4 years."
Wow.
So very rare happy ending for one of these kind of stories. This is very sweet. When Ben got home, he went straight to his computer and booted it up and played Neopets / Club Penguin or whatever he has been
back to life.
He's like, man, my Neopet's so hungry. My meerkat is so hungry. He just wants a snack.
I wonder if it sounds like he was mentally all right. I wonder if it was maybe he was just told since not a lot of time had passed in his mind, like, oh, you're just here with me for the weekend or something.
Well, he was 13. He wasn't like
young enough to be fooled.
I think so. I don't think either of them thought like, oh, I'm supposed to be here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
If that makes sense.
That's fair.
So pretty immediately, Shawn, the older kid who had been abducted younger than Ben, he was 11 when he was abducted, but now he's 15. He starts getting put through the ringer. So it's pretty sad. People kind of wanted to know, well, you've been gone for 4 years. What have you been doing? Which is like,
it's like I was 11. What do you mean what I was doing?
Trying to survive, I guess, but okay. Yeah. As the story came together, police learned that Shawn seemed to have had a lot of freedom while living in this house. He was allowed to leave the apartment unsupervised. He even had like a friend next door and they had sleepovers together. He even had a girlfriend he saw regularly. He had a cell phone. He had internet access on Michael's computer. And so people were like, well, why didn't he try to escape? And he had an answer. Because when it turned out that Shawn had ridden along in the truck on Ben's abduction, people were furious and felt like Shawn was an accessory to Ben's kidnapping. And we're basically putting him on the spot to be like,
why didn't you do something?
Yeah, not only did you not escape when you had free reign of the internet, but you also, quote unquote, helped, or you were there when Ben was abducted.
You were somehow contributing to this
they felt like he was a conspirator for that abduction. What's worse is people started suggesting that Shawn didn't escape because he simply didn't want to.
Whoa.
People were saying, he didn't have to go to school while he was living with with Michael. People felt like maybe he was having fun. He had a girlfriend and he was playing video games and had friends. And they were like, well, that must be why he didn't run away. He wanted to be there. This was all extremely painful of an accusation because it couldn't be further from the truth. And like I said, he had actually a very solid explanation for why he was still there. So during interrogations, Michael, the kidnapper, admitted that he had originally planned to kill Shawn pretty soon after abducting him. For an entire month after the abduction, Michael kept Shawn tied up to furniture in his apartment with duct tape over his mouth. And so whenever Michael would go to work, and he worked those 2 jobs, whenever he would go to work, he would leave Shawn tied up with duct tape over his mouth for hours and hours on end. And again, this kid was 11. And so during this time, while he was tied up in this guy's apartment, Michael abused Shawn sexually, physically, verbal, every way, every sense of the word. He abused Shawn. And he's interviewed alongside his parents in the 2020 special. And, you know, this is years ago now, so I'm not sure what the updates are as far as this aspect of the story, but he says, you know, I'm not ready to tell my parents that side of the story. And it just was very sweet because his parents were like, you know, we're here whenever. We're not going to push him to tell us what happened. But if he ever feels like he wants to tell us, he can tell us. But it seems like a lot happened that he was not comfortable to share publicly or with his parents at that point.
Sure.
But we do know both boys were sexually abused by Michael. So finally, after endless weeks of this just being tied up and abused, Michael decided to kill Shawn and began to strangle him with his hands. Shawn managed to break Michael's grip, and he promised Michael that if he let him live, Shawn would never try to escape or tell anyone what Michael did.
Gotcha.
And so Michael decided he was going to trust Shawn, and he let him live. And again, this kid is 11, and he's making these like deals, like, I'll never tell if you let me survive this. And so slowly over the years, Michael gave Shawn more and more freedom. It wasn't really freedom, you know? I mean, it was like on the surface maybe. But like I said, Shawn had promised Michael that he would never tell anyone and he would never try to run away. So Michael convinced Shawn that if he did try to run away, he would find him and kill him and murder his whole family.
Oh my God.
And this, again, I feel like I just need to sound like a broken record, but this kid's 11 and you're saying, I'm going to murder your whole family if you try to run away. Yeah, that's, you know, one way to keep somebody to doing what you want them to do. So the accusation that he wanted to be there, and I mean, it's just pretty sick. For 4 years, Shawn was abused, manipulated, and programmed by Michael to believe that he truly only had 2 choices, which were stay with Michael under this roof or die and have your whole family potentially killed.
Yeah.
So a neighbor who lived above Michael Devlin said that he often heard the sounds of crying and screaming in the apartment below him, but for whatever reason, never reported it to the police. There's just no way to really, you know, properly, I'm trying to think of the right word, quantify, I guess, how much torment Michael put Shawn through. You know, from age 11, like basically through his formative years till he was 15.
Super formative, yeah.
Just tortured and traumatized this child. And so people who judged him and said, you know, I'm sure he just wanted to be there. He didn't want to go to school. It's like, how could you imagine, you know, what it was like to be in this position?
And I can't imagine the position of now leaving that world and now just having to live a normal life while probably at the same time, like, you first of all, you can't live a normal life because of all the trauma, but also probably can't live a normal life because you've been stunted from like 4 years of like school and all that, right? Like, I mean, did he get to go to school?
He did, and he actually caught up and aced all his classes. Like they yeah, they talked about it in the special. He just like kicked ass. Like he went back to school and just nailed it. Like
okay. Phew. Okay, well that's one thing that we don't have to worry about, I guess. But
yeah, but the one and to be honest, like I was so impressed with how just put together and like eloquent and just gentle he seemed. Like he just seemed so grown up and mature, and
that could have gone a really different way.
I know, and I don't say that to say like, oh, you know, wow, I would have expected him to be, you know, this, that, or the other, but I would not have blamed him for any way that he behaved. So to see somebody who's much more eloquent than I ever was at 15 and much more put together and grown up and mature, I was just very impressed. And so
noted.
You know, he apparently got out of there and kicked ass. So I was at least happy to hear that. But yeah, so he told a CBS interviewer in 2008 There wasn't a day when I didn't think he was just going to kill me. I'm not going to lie, there were times when it seemed like I was better off dead. And even in the 2020 special, he said, like, when he was originally locked up, like, tied up and kept away from the outside world, he would think it was like July and then it would be snowing out, or vice versa. Like, he was just lost all track of time and normalcy. And I mean, just every layer of like torment you could probably go through, this kid was going through. Interestingly, he had he had actually lost hope. He said that he would ever be saved. Like, he just lived a life now where he was like, oh, this is just,
I mean,
it for me. I'm never seeing my family again. Yeah.
Years and years of waiting. Yeah. I mean, there's all you can do is, I don't know. I would have given up too. I would have just thought like, oh, well, this is how it is now.
I'm just resigning myself to this. He did, however, once try to get a message out to his family, which didn't happen the way he tried. Well, I'll tell you what he did. So his parents actually ran a website to post updates about the case. And Shawn once sort of Googled himself or found this website, and he once commented on it from Michael's desktop computer, which my heart is racing just thinking about that moment where you're like, what if he walks in? What if
he just like looks through the history or something? Through the history of the computer. What if I don't know if I'm erasing it right? Oh God.
Like, the fear must be so real. And he commented on one of the on the website, and he wrote, "How long will you be looking for your son?"
Oh.
Trying to just get any hope that they were still looking for him, which is just the most heartbreaking thing. And he signed the comment Shawn Devlin.
Ooh,
so he did that, but Shawn's parents just thought it was like a troll, like fucking with them, or just some rando named Shawn Devlin, and they thought maybe this person was using their son's first name to just
be cruel.
Exactly. But Shawn was just basically seeking any sort of reassurance that they wouldn't stop searching for him. So it's very jarring to see that comment and be like, oh my God, that was him writing that, it's just very chilling. So, Shawn never gave up despite thinking he was never going to see his family again. He survived this ordeal. He made it home. He and his parents were interviewed on 2020 and they seemed close and, just so happy that they were reunited. And you can read online, speaking of forums, some of the comments from when they were found in real time, because this was like during the era of the internet and forums and that kind of thing. And so you can read comments from that day.
That's so freaky.
It's weird, right? So here's one of a person reacting in real time to this case in particular. The user's name was Mama Cakes, and it was posted on a cake baking forum, January 12th, 2007. And here's the comment. I know this is not cake related, but I have to share. I am from Franklin County, Union, Missouri. We had 2 boys missing in this area. I am on my knees thanking God for this miracle. They found them both.
Oh,
so it's just cool to be able to go back and see like people in real time saying, "Oh my God, guess what just happened?" and updating, comments on things. It's just, I don't know, an interesting little throwback.
It's weird to be able to see like a moment frozen in time.
Yes.
Of like, oh.
Yes, exactly, precisely. So news outlets began calling this the Missouri Miracle, and that's still pretty much what it's called.
Wow.
This case, the Missouri Miracle. Michael Devlin was sentenced for multiple convictions, including abducting with a deadly weapon when it came out that he took Shawn at gunpoint. He also had child pornography on his computer at home, and today he is serving literally several thousand years worth of life sentences.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he won't be eligible for parole until he's over 100 years old. He was once attacked in prison by another inmate. I think we've all heard from Law & Order SVU what happens when you harm children and then go away to prison. People aren't happy about that. And he is still in the same state prison. Meanwhile, Shawn and Ben have continued on in their lives. They are thankfully safe home with their families. And in a 2013 interview, Shawn said that whenever he hears stories of missing children being found, it actually doesn't trigger traumatic memories. Instead, he remembers the day that FBI investigators found him and finally brought him home. This is like the most well-adjusted teenager on any level, despite being abducted or not. Like, I'm just shocked at how well-adjusted this
I feel like
is.
it's just expected that like you're allowed to need a minute and like
exactly
react to things.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
I was just so impressed how like strong this kid is, So as far as we know now, Ben and Shawn both still live in Missouri. They're grown up with families of their own. And for once, we have, a happy ending to a pretty traumatic story. So that is the story of Ben and Shawn's abductions.
All right. Well, that's the end of the entire podcast. We'll just end.
We end on a high.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Wow. Oh, my gosh.
It's rare, but here we are.
Well, thank you for a happy ending finally.
You're so welcome.
Very, very rare. Very rare on this show. Wow. All right.
I hope Mitchell's doing okay.
Yeah, I hope all three of them are doing okay, but Mitchell certainly also deserves like a high five.
Deserves a little shout out, yeah.
Wow. And what they're called the Missouri Miracle?
Yep.
Cool.
I know. Cool. I'm so happy for them. Sorry if I pronounced Beaufort or Buford wrong, folks. I do apologize.
It's okay. It's just one of those names. Do you have a name in Ohio that's kind of wild?
Well, we got Versailles in Kentucky. There's so many. Well, there's like, if you think about Des Moines, and then there's Des Plaines. And it's like, well,
yeah.
What are you doing? Like, commit to one or the other. It's not Des Plaines, it's Des Plaines, but Des Moines. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh,
neither of those are Ohio, but just makes me think.
Good to know those two really do come very quickly to your brain, though.
It really irritates me because I'm like, you have to think about which one is pronounced des and which one is pronounced duh.
I thought about you recently because I saw a TikTok. Someone was complaining about someone's wedding invitation because it was in papyrus.
Oh, well, that was probably me. I'm sorry. I didn't know someone was filming.
You just shifted into another form and just took it upon yourself to make an opinion.
Boy,
especially the video started with like the actual person with the wedding invite being like you can't tell me this isn't like the prettiest invitation you've ever seen, and then someone stitched it being like, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. Anyway, well, thank you for the education today, Christine.
You're so welcome, Emmethy. I can't wait to do a quick little after chat with you too.
I know, and I'm sorry you feel icky, so we don't have to be on for too long.
That's okay. Our patrons know I don't have to be, in character.
Unscripted over there.
Unscripted, right. As
Christine,
as scripted as this show is,
But it's Christine After Hours is a whole other site.
Christine on NyQuil. Here we go.
All right. And
that's
why
we
drink.